Hi, I'm Kesenya and welcome to Guiding Star Astrology. I'm your Astro Weather Girl, here with this week's Astro Weather Report. I'm going to show you how the stars are going to affect your life this week. Well, hello everybody in YouTube land. It's wonderful to be with you, back with you actually, because you may not realize this, but I've been away for about a month. I chose to take some time off over the eclipses, which were affecting my chart quite heavily, and it was the best thing I could possibly have done. If you follow my Instagram page, you'll probably have seen a few snaps and a few reels of the place that I went, which was back home for me, a long way from humanity, a long way from other people, a chance to really tap out, which was just what we Pisces rising people enjoy most. So thank you, and it is lovely to be back with you. And a big thank you also to my Patreon family who are sharing their video with you this week, because I actually felt that this particular new moon was special enough to warrant being shared with the broader community here on YouTube. Each month, my Patreon members get a new moon forecast and a full moon forecast and a special astrology tidbit video where at the moment we're exploring different methods of analyzing the chart each month with a very special video, plus all sorts of gifts and bonuses and things that I like to share. And there are different levels you can join with and the Patreon family. For people who might be a bit strapped for cash, they can join at the lower level and get access to one of the moon videos. You'll also get a 10% discount off readings with me at that level. And then we go right up to the highest level of Patreon support, Patreon family membership, at which you receive an astro wheel, very similar to this one, a magnetic astro wheel after a year's membership. So it's kind of like a payment plan with extra bonuses to purchase an astro wheel. So very, very exciting. But once again, thank you to my beautiful Patreon members for sharing this new moon in Gemini video with the broader YouTube community. So today we're looking at the new moon in Gemini, and this is falling right here at 9 degrees of Gemini. There is a lot to talk about with this new moon. It's very, very exciting. It's falling on the 30th of May, Australian Eastern Standard Time. Your time in your part of the world should be listed in the description below, along with the timestamps for each sign. But I would encourage you to listen to the intro, because there is just so much meaty goodness to be gleaned from this particular new moon in Gemini that you might want to tune in for and apply it to your life before you jump to your sign, sun, moon, or rising sign, to find out specifically what area of life it will be impacting you most. One final little piece of admin before we dive into this very special new moon. I want to mention a big thank you to everyone who has signed up for my mailing list. Recently, I've been shadow banned on Instagram, and so you may not be seeing my posts there as frequently as you may once have done. But this is just a signature of the times that we're living in, I guess, isn't it? You know, where freedom of speech is being more and more clamped down on. Lada from Astrolada, for those who aren't aware, has had her channel hacked and removed. You've got to wonder how and why and who might have done that. So I do encourage you, I should have mentioned this to begin with, please, if you were a follower of Astrolada's original Astrolada channel on YouTube, do track her down. She is back building up a channel from scratch again. It's going to be magnificent. It already is magnificent, and she could really use your support to get back on board and build back the channel that YouTube has stolen from her. So this is her livelihood, this is her income, this is how she supports not only herself and her immediate family and children, but also her wider family as well, and a number of other people who have collaborated and worked with her. She's quite an incredible human being, and I love her dearly. So please head over or find the Astrolada channel. I'll pop a link in the description box as well for people to jump to, so that they can jump on board, subscribe to the Astrolada channel. I would also encourage you to please subscribe to my channel as well if you have not done so already. And what I guess I initially began by saying was a big thank you to everybody who has signed up for my postal mailing list. It's great to have you on board there, and big love and hugs and kisses to every one of you. I pray for all my Patreon family every day, and I'm going to add in my mailing list, postal mailing list, to that as well, because you are fellow journeyers on the path of enlightenment and freedom. So thank you for joining me there. I should mention also, for anybody who would like to join the postal mailing list in the eventuality that potentially we could have to revert to old school systems such as postal mail, you can do so through using the email address and sending me in the description box below, and sending me your name, address and country, postal address, please. So anyway, my last few videos have talked about that. I'm not going to harp on it. Let's look at the new moon. Admin's out of the way now. So new moons, let's talk about them generally. We don't set our intentions under a new moon. The moon is dark, the moon is invisible, it's lost in the glare of the sun. So moon, activities that we make, intention steps that we undergo during a new moon don't actually manifest for us, because something in visual astrology, which is the most ancient form of astrology, where you observed what's happening in the night sky and applied it to your life, visual astrology requires that the moon be visible for something to manifest. In fact, the more that the moon is visible and grows to fullness, the more manifestation becomes possible. So that's why we have a culmination of manifestation at full moons. But new moons are not a time for initiating anything, taking steps towards anything, taking action towards anything, because things don't manifest while the moon is dark, and our steps are fruitless while the moon is dark. Now, that said, there are some schools of thought that say the moon is treated differently to planets that are in a conjunction with the sun. Planets that are in a conjunction with the sun are known as being combust and ineffective because they're lost in the glare of the sun. Some schools of thought in astrology say that the moon is treated differently in this regard because it's not a planet. It's a luminary, just like the sun is a luminary. And when a luminary like the moon is hidden by the glare of the sun, we treat it differently. Now, I'm actually choosing to adhere to the ancient visual astrology principle. It correlates with the Hermetic principle of as above, so below. The moon is not visible. It cannot manifest for us what we want at the new moon time. It's a symbol whenever the moon goes into the glare of the sun. It lasts for about 3 days where the moon is invisible. We don't see it. It's like going into the underworld, all the mythologies about going into the underworld, and even like biblical associations. Jonah, 3 days in the belly of the whale. Jesus, 3 days in the tomb. This 3-day disappearance symbology is prevalent all throughout all cultures all over the world, and it correlates to a few things in astrological symbology, one of them being the monthly disappearance of the moon for 3 days. It's like going into the underworld. The sun also has kind of what we would see in astrological and astronomical terms as a disappearing act as well. But what that is for the sun, it doesn't actually physically disappear from the sky. It has an annual period of pausing. So it stops moving along the declination points at both of the solstices. And we're coming up to a solstice in June very soon. I'll talk more about this principle when we get to that stage in June. But this annual period where the sun halts its progress along the declinations and turns back the other way is in fact a bit like this moon period that is an underworld experience during every month when the moon disappears at new moon. So there is a 3-day period where at solstice where the sun stops its progress, stations in the sky, and then starts moving backwards, back over its tracks. And that is considered to be something like the pausing period, the waiting period, which is similar to what we have with the moon when it's new. It's a pausing period. It's a waiting period. So, in fact, every planet goes through an underworld experience when it disappears from view, when it gets lost in the glare of the sun. It's just that they all happen at different cycles. The moon, once a month. Mercury, up to 3 times a year. Actually, more than that, to be honest. Mercury can sometimes disappear. I think it's almost up to 6 times a year, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Feel free to correct me in the comments if you know that I've fluffed that one up. Venus every 18 months or so. Twice every 18 months. So whenever the planets move into a conjunction with the sun and get lost in the glare of the sun, for whatever length of time it happens to be, that is considered their underworld transformational experience. And so, to wrap up this very long-winded explanation, the moon going invisible every month is a regular underworld transformational experience for us. It's a purging, it's a releasing, it's a letting go of, and it's a making a new start, which is what underworld experiences are all about. Going into the darkness to be reborn out the other side. The moon is the planet that does that most regularly. And the moon is our emotions. The moon is our sense of security and safety and stability in the world. And so these themes, the moon is our caring, our nurturing side. The moon is popularity in mundane astrology and the masses in mundane astrology. And so we have this, for all these themes, there's this pause, there's this transformation of our energy, and there's this rebirthing of our energy in those regards every month under the new moon. Let's move on with a bit more information. It is a time, therefore, where we do not take action because the moon is invisible, but it's a time for going inward. It's a time to ponder upon our dreams, our goals, our desires now. What do we want? What do we need to feel fulfilled? That's what the moon represents. The moon represents what we need in our life in order to feel fulfilled. Where is the moon natally in your chart? It's going to tell you what you need in your life in order to feel most fulfilled. And if you don't have it, you will feel empty, like something is missing. So this is a time for pondering on what we need in order to feel fulfilled while the moon is invisible. Sit with these thoughts. Sit with these musings. Let them infiltrate into your being. Let them refine you. And maybe it's a time for letting go of what is not fulfilling you, what you believe is not aligned with you right now. And you might come to a realization under a new moon energy that my sense of fulfillment is not coming from X, Y, Z in my life. So in that sense, it can bring about some conclusions, even though the new moon is often correlated with new beginnings. If we are sitting with the new moon in invisibility and transformation, we may realize that something in our life is not giving us the fulfillment that we know deep down that we want and that we deserve and that we need, because they are themes that the moon represents in astrology. So let these thoughts, let these musings, let these ponderings, and take time to do so, infiltrate into your being right now so that you can redirection and re-emerge and rebirth your life at the emergence of the new moon, when it becomes visible around about the 2nd to 3rd of June, depending on where you are in the world. So when the moon does become visible on the sort of 2nd to 3rd of June, that is when it begins to wax in the sky. It starts to grow stronger, and we can take these musings that we've had and bring our dreams into fruition now. Take the actions, take the steps that we need to take once the moon is visible towards achieving our dreams, towards maybe, okay, I'm going to take the action I need to let go of that piece in my life that is not fulfilling me, or I'm going to take that action in my life that I need to take now so that I can start to feel fulfilled in some area. So it's a good time when the moon is new, moon is invisible, to list the actions that you want to undertake when the moon does become visible. And then once the moon becomes visible on the 2nd or 3rd of June, take those steps to see the fruit, towards achieving the fruit. It's not an inactive thing. The moon, in fact, all of life requires us to be active. It's not about sitting on the couch watching Netflix and waiting for everything to come flooding to you. It's about taking action at the appropriate lunar time, during the appropriate lunar cycle. And now is the time when the moon becomes visible on the 2nd or 3rd of June for taking those actions. Just a little bit more about new moons. Doing a liquid diet or a juice fast is really good during the 4 days of the new moon. So 2 days before the new moon exact and 2 days after, while the new moon is going into its invisible stage. It's a great idea to detox because, as we've just described, there is this letting go that can occur of things that are not for you any longer, that are not part of what you need. Moon is our needs. So this is when your body can release most physical toxins and unwanted waste products and unnecessary fluids out of our body. So it's the ultimate time to flush out your system, to do a juice fast or a soup diet or whatever it is that cleans out your system. And because of that, it's a good idea to avoid alcohol now, to stick to pure foods, to stick to liquids that assist your body in its flushing out process. So help your body along there and be kind to you by, avoiding those things. Now, as I've described, the moon at around the 2nd or 3rd of June will have chuffed along out sort of the other end of Gemini and be becoming visible on the 2nd or 3rd of June, depending where you are in the world. And as it does so, it's going to move around for the next 2 weeks until we have a full moon in Sagittarius 2 weeks later. The moon is going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger during this period. So it's growing, it's increasing, it's heading towards its full capacity. I've already alluded to what this is all about. And in visual astrology, as above, so below, what we see in the sky is reflected in our lives here on Earth. The ability to manifest, to experience the fruit, to experience the fullness and the culmination increases as this 2 weeks goes ahead. So in a practical sense, it's actually a terrific time to increase your weight. The moon is increasing and growing. And if it's your desire to increase your weight, if you're a bodybuilder or you've been sick and you want to put some weight back on or something, it's a terrific time to work on increasing your weight because the moon will support you in its waxing phase. It's also, if we put on weight during this time, it will be retained for longer as well, which is interesting. For those of us who don't want to put on weight during the full moon, then maybe it's not a good idea because it'll stick with you and be harder to get rid of. But it is a wonderful time also for beginning an exercise program or a new routine because you'll be more likely to stick with it for the long term. Whatever begins under the waxing moon tends to stick, tends to stay, tends to be with us for longer. So it's a good time to start a new exercise routine. It's also a really good time to do skin treatments under the new moon. Things like masks and peels, things that are designed to rejuvenate our skin while the moon is waxing. A really good time for oil massages, herbal compresses, moisturizing baths, because the skin is at its most absorbent at this time. With that in mind, it's also good to realize that your skin is more prone to sunburn and dryness because it's absorbing the sun's rays. So you go out and sit under the sun during a waxing moon cycle, and you will burn in 10 minutes compared to the waning moon cycle where it might take you half an hour to get to that same state of redness. So do be careful if you're a sunbather about how much time you spend in the sun under the waxing moon, because it will be more impactful on your skins and your skin's absorbency. It is also the best time to dye your hair, particularly at the point where the moon is almost full, around here in 2 weeks' time, because hair absorbs. We absorb better when the moon is full and waxing and growing. So your hair will absorb the dye better and the color will last longer. It'll also be easier to achieve your desired color, your desired shade. And I will vouch for this. Time and again, I end up dyeing my hair around the time of the waning moon. Over here, say the moon was in Aries, getting smaller and smaller, coming towards the new moon, and it lasts maybe a week, and I'm like, oh, I've got to do it all over again. It's so annoying. It happens every time I don't pay attention to the moon. I regret dyeing my hair during a waning moon. Best time, waxing moon, for sure. Also, taking care of damaged hair is very good at this time as well, because once again, the hair shafts can absorb any of the treatments that you put on them, and even getting it trimmed to help with split ends and so forth. The trim that you have on your hair, like to get rid of split ends or whatever, if you're a woman with long hair, that will be effective for longer. You will keep the split ends at bay for longer. Remember, whatever is established and anything that we do under a waxing moon tends to last. So healthy ends on your hair tend to stick around for longer when we get a trim under the waxing moon rather than the waning moon. Eyebrow treatments can be successful if you're wanting to fill in patchy eyebrows. However, if you're wanting to pluck the hair out and get rid of it permanently, do it under the waning moon as well. So plant your seeds and seedlings now, also under the waxing moon. It's time to get out in the garden and do your planting, particularly if you're in the northern hemisphere in your springtime at the moment, because during the waning moon, plants just do better. They establish themselves better. The waxing moon is about growing, and as soon as they get their roots in the soil, away they go. They're growing under the waxing moon. Root vegetables are different. If you want to plant root vegetables, you do it under a waning moon, not a waxing moon. Okay, so that's the only difference. If they're above ground seedlings, go for it now. If you're a root vegetable planter, then do it under the waning moon. All right, so that's our little piece of tidbits about new moons and the waxing moon that will follow on from the new moon. Now we want to explore the specifics of this particular new moon, and we're looking at, again, 9 degrees of Gemini. So do you have planets here? Do you have a planet? Do you have maybe an angle? Maybe you've got your ascendant here at 9 degrees of Gemini. Quite frankly, my IC is here, so I'm very intrigued about what this is going to bring. For those who are new to astrology, and if you are new to astrology, do consider doing my course in learning how to read your chart. It will help you enormously, and it's only $35 Australian, available through my website guidingstar.astrology.com at the Learn Astrology page. I encourage everybody to do that so that they can get a grasp of how to work with your own personal astrology. But 9 degrees of Gemini is my IC, and the IC is the manifestation point for home, family, heritage, roots, lineage, and personal happiness in Vedic astrology is seen through the 4th house. So maybe I've got a new beginning coming for me in terms of personal happiness, or a new house. That would be wonderful. You can also look at your ascendant, which has to do with the self. A new starts for you. If you've got 9 degrees Gemini as your ascendant, maybe you're turning over a new leaf in your life in some way now. Maybe if you have your descendant here, it might be a new start for your partner, or a new situation, or a new experience of life with your partner in some way, or a business partner. It doesn't have to be like a marriage partner. It can be some formal arrangement or agreement, like a client or your audience, or a business collaboration or something like that. If your descendant is being activated, and if your midheaven is being activated, say it's at 9 degrees of Gemini, then it can represent that you might be having some sort of new beginning, new start, new turning over of a new leaf with your career, a new opportunity in career, a new chance to step forward and be out there in the world in some way as well. So they're the angles and how they might be activated if you have them at 9 degrees of Gemini, which is where this new moon is falling. I also want to point out to you that I only use very tight orbs of roughly 4 to 5 degrees. I like everything to be clearly able to manifest, and any more than that, it's almost getting to, I find, the point where it's a bit iffy. The energy that you might experience could be a bit, hit and miss. I want things to be bang on when I do my astrology readings, so I only use very tight orbs. Let's look at the sun. If you have the sun within 9 degrees either side of Gemini, then you might have under this new moon some new goals in career that are coming to you, new dreams, new aspirations for how you're going to show up in the world, a new chance to turn over a new leaf with your level of confidence as well. It's also your birthday, or it has been very near to this point. So happy birthday to you and happy solar return if you have your sun in accordance with this new moon. You will also be carrying this new moon energy in your solar return chart if you have your sun at 9 degrees of Gemini. And of course that means it is going to be an entire year of new beginnings, new starts, turning over new leaves, left, right and center for you. And that could be very exciting if you're sick of the way things have been. It's always an exciting year whenever we have a new moon on our birthday. Obviously it's a very rare thing. It doesn't happen all the time, so it's special, and this year will be a special one in your life for those of you who have sun here. For those of us who have the moon at 9 degrees of Gemini, well, it could bring in a reset of emotions, new beginnings with how you feel, new revelations about what you need for fulfillment and for happiness in your life. And so therefore it can bring you the opportunity to have a fresh start with some sort of level of fulfillment. The moon is also our home as well. So you might be doing something new to your home or something different with your family under the new moon energy. There might be a shift of energy, a shift of change with the new moon on your moon natally. If you have Mercury here, well, it's giving you a chance to perhaps establish some new skill sets, develop some new skills, maybe some new talents, invest in some new hobbies or interests, utilize some new social networks perhaps, reaching out, connecting, making new friendships might be a part of this new moon. And also if it is conjunct Mercury, it's falling in a conjunction with the Lord of the new moon. So Mercury is the Lord of the new moon, and in your chart it is the Lord of the new moon personally for you. So it's going to be quite powerful. We're going to talk about this in a minute as we get on through this video. Venus, I'm just talking generally about the planets for now. Venus can bring, if you have it at 9 degrees, can bring a brand new start with some sort of love under this new moon. Falling in love or re-falling in love with your partner, generating some sort of a new romantic experience in your life in some way. It could also bring new financial opportunities, a chance to turn over a new leaf with your banking or your financial situation in life. Mars at this point, 9 degrees of Gemini, could see you experiencing new energy, new vigor, new passion for life, new enthusiasm. It could also fire up your angry side. And I love Mars energy. In ancient times, unfortunately, he was considered to be the most malefic, even more so than Saturn. This was in ancient Babylonian astrology, considered to be more malefic than Saturn, particularly when he was glowing hot and red in the sky at his reddest, which won't be happening until later this year. I'll talk about that when the time comes. But Mars it was considered to be this difficult planet, but I think that Mars energy in its we talk about its shadow side, anger and violence and aggression and so on, but its light side, I adore. It's a hero. It's a warrior for truth. It's a fighter for justice. And this is something that I love and want to embrace more of in my life, Just because I'm a Pisces rising doesn't mean that I am without fire in my blood, So Mars can bring you a new passion to fight for justice, to stand up to oppressors, to be the warrior, to be the Wonder Woman, to be the hero. So Mars at this point could really bring that about for you. In a conjunction with a new moon. New moon conjunct Jupiter might bring new belief structures into your life, new revelations, new understandings of life, new ethics, new morals, new principles that you want to align with that you might never have realized before. You might get an epiphany, an aha moment through this new moon if it's falling with your Jupiter. It also might introduce you into some new joy, because Jupiter is joy, so some joyful experience. Saturn at this point, you might experience some sort of new structures in your life, new rules, new regulations, new limitations that might come into your life. That could be anything from government-inflicted regulations that come into your life with Saturn at this point, or it could be, restrictions on your own life experience. Say, you speed down the road pulls you over, you lose your license, and there you are experiencing a new restriction in your life of having to take public transport. Now, they're two rather difficult explanations or examples, I should say, of Saturn. But then the positive, in the light side of Saturn, if you have your natal Saturn at this point, you might experience some level of new maturity, a level of new responsibility, a stepping up in your responsibilities in the world and your contribution of service to the world that could happen under this new moon as well. Uranus at this point, 9 degrees of Gemini, if you have this, then you will actually be quite elderly. So I sort of, what I share here, I share with, I suppose, a word of caution, because Uranus is excitement. And to have the new moon fall on our natal Uranus might bring something very exciting and unexpected and out of the blue into your life. And if you're quite elderly, you might not be wanting that. You might be just wanting the peace and the quiet of, elder years. So just do be careful if you're having the new moon fall with your Uranus, because it could really stir things up for you in your life in some way, shape or form, depending on where this is falling in terms of the houses of your chart. Neptune, if you have Neptune at this point, then it could bring some sort of new creativity, new glamour, new spiritual experiences that manifest in your life in some way. Once again, there will not be anybody with Neptune at this point in the chart, because you'll be too elderly. But people don't like it when I don't talk about what the influence of the planet might be, even though nobody on the planet has Neptune in Gemini. Anyway, so I'll talk about what it can bring, but yeah, maybe you're looking at a chart of somebody who's deceased and, I don't know, trying to make sense of what they would be experiencing if they were still alive. Pluto here. And so again, there will be nobody with Pluto at 9 degrees of Gemini. But if you did have Pluto at 9 degrees of Gemini, it might bring some sort of new personal power into your life, new transformation, new change, new rebirthing, new emergence, like the phoenix rising from the ashes that could happen with a new moon conjunct Pluto at this degree. Okay, so that's how it would be affecting all the planets if they fell with them in your chart. Now let's have a look at the chart of this particular new moon. Well, there's not a lot going on in terms of aspects. There's and remember I said I use only 5-degree orbs? There is a very loose, oops, this planet's in the wrong place, 5-degree orb that is occurring from Jupiter conjunct Mars to the Sun and Moon. So that's happening. But yeah, this is a sextile aspect. I don't often talk about sextiles. But look, for those of you who are new to astrology, a sextile is an aspect that has a good influence, positive, hopeful influences on our lives, but it's weaker than the trine energy. We don't feel its oomph in our life as much as we do with a trine. So sextiles often are overlooked, are often not felt in great strength, both in the natal chart and in the transiting horoscope, which is what we're looking at here. And the reason that is because I think humanity is always looking for the bigger, the better, the brighter. And sextiles can bring in some nice little good things that we just sort of take for granted. You know, somebody brings a box of chocolates into work and we all have a lovely chocolate with our morning tea. That's a beautiful special treat and a lovely gift. That can be the result of a transiting sextile by perhaps Venus or something. Venus is sweet things. But would we consider that something to write home about, something to write in our journal about that this evening when we get home from work? Probably not. And sextiles are just a little less noticeable because we're expecting the bigger, the brighter, big stellar events in our lives. But if we're somebody who's looking with gratitude at life, looking through the lens of thankfulness, then we might notice those little sextile moments that bring us special little gifts of joy throughout the day. But this new moon is having a sextile from Mars to Jupiter. We're going to talk about that in a moment. The one thing that I am excited about with this new moon, really excited about, is that it is falling in a conjunction with a very important fixed star, the fixed star Aldebaran. This is one of the watcher stars. Just off the top of my head, I forget which watcher it is, watcher of the east, west, south, or north. But it is also one of the royal stars of ancient Persia, after which I've named my Learn Astrology course. If you want to learn astrology with me, I would love to do so. You can check out the Royal Stars Academy with me. The link's in the description box below for that one. But the conjunction with Aldebaran is going to heavily impact this new moon, not least of all because it happens to have been at a point that was activated by eclipses back in December 2021. So we are getting a reactivation of those themes from the eclipses that occurred in November 2021. November and December 2021. Sorry, get my accuracy there. And finally, we're going to talk about all these three things in just a second. The third thing that's occurring in this chart of the new moon is Mercury, who is the ruler of the new moon, is currently retrograding. So that is something of note. So let me start by talking about the Mercury retrograde element as the ruler of this particular new moon. Mercury is going to be here at 26 degrees of Taurus. Now, this is also important because 26 degrees of Taurus is where we had the occurrence of an eclipse. The eclipse that occurred back in the 30th of April. At least where I live in the world, it was the 30th of April. And Mercury is stopping its retro. It's turning stationary and then turning direct at this 26 degree mark. So Mercury has finished his backwards motion through the horoscope in his retrograde phase, and he is on the degree where he's going to change direction. He won't change direction until the moon becomes visible on the 2nd of June. So the second or third, depending where you are in the world, is going to be so important because the moon will become visible, manifesting the impressions that we go through during the new moon phase. Moon is going to be activating then, and Mercury is going to be like, off we go. Change direction. Let's get cracking. Stopping the retrograde phase and moving ahead, Mercury. So all this is tied in together. It's very, very important and very powerful because Mercury rules Gemini where this is occurring. What does this mean for us personally? Well, when we get to the all signs breakdown, I'm going to be talking about how this new moon will affect us in what house of our lives. So do pay attention because we are probably going to be going over some old ways of thinking, some old belief structures, some old thought patterns, some old relationships, some old connections to do with the house of Gemini in our lives. And this is going to be occurring during the new moon. And then when Mercury goes direct, we're all out of the ballpark with that. So we might be reviewing, rehashing, reworking, reassessing. Maybe if this is your 7th house, like this chart shows here, we might be reassessing a relationship. Do I want to be with this person? Yes, no, whatever. We are reevaluating our business partnerships, our marriage, our whatever, that all might change and be redirectioned once Mercury turns direct after the new moon. So the new moon process is this reevaluation time for wherever Gemini falls in your chart. We're going to talk about where that is for everybody shortly. So Mercury retrograde has a significant impact on this new moon. Not only that, as I said, we have Aldebaran in a conjunction here with the fixed star Aldebaran in a conjunction with the new moon. What does this mean? Just for people who don't usually tune into my new moon reports on Patreon, what I do here is I've listed for you the different effects that are playing out in the chart, told you what they are. Now we're going to go through how they will impact you. So we have Aldebaran, and I've done a video all about the impact of Aldebaran, what Aldebaran means, what it brings to our lives if we've got it prominently in our chart. That's on my Patreon channel as well, so I won't go over everything that was covered already there. Please refer to that video if you want to find out more about what this conjunction of the luminaries with Aldebaran might bring. However, the ancient sage Abu Bashar considered Aldebaran to be the most lucky and the most wealth-giving star. And when it's conjunct with the sun, as it will be on this particular day, it is considered to give extraordinary energy. Happy birthday indeed to those of us who've got the sun here. So it's going to assist you. It's going to assist us all to be fruitful in our leadership endeavors and to come out ahead of others in some way. So this new moon will bring these energies to the fore. It will also be a very favorable new moon for business matters and honors, especially if this is falling in either your 10th house. If Virgo is your rising sign, it will be your 10th house, or your first house. If you are a Gemini rising person, it's going to be exceptionally strong for you with business matters because it is conjunct with Aldebaran in that house of your chart. It also, Aldebaran does carry the nature of Mars, so there is potentially the chance of violence or aggression that could come out of this new moon, especially in mundane astrology. So we're talking about world events. That's what mundane astrology is. So, I mean, we've just had an election in Australia. From what I have heard, there's legal action being taken over the fact that it was a dubious result. And a lot of people believe that it was not legally done. That we have a very complicated voting system in Australia, and many people believe that the calculations were not done correctly to determine what parties got in. So there's legal action, I understand, occurring about that. I mean, quite frankly, this could bring about, especially once Mercury turns direct in a mundane astrology chart, once the moon is visible and Mercury is direct, it could bring about some violence, some aggression, some protests, some anger on the streets, because Aldebaran is of the nature of Mars, involved with all of this. So that could very well happen as well. Let's wait and see what occurs. I've just talked about Australia. There could be other things happening in your part of the world collectively that might be of that nature as well. So do be conscious, do be careful, and do proceed with as much love as you can manage in these very trying days that we are in. Now, moving on, the sun is going to be, before I talk about the sextile that we've got between Jupiter and Mars and this moon, the sun is going to be at 21 degrees north and the moon at 23 degrees north in declination when they join. So they're not at the very same degree of declination, but close enough, obviously, and the moon will be invisible. But while Aldebaran is at 16 degrees of declination. So the conjunction with Aldebaran is not going to be exact, but it's certainly sufficient to obscure Aldebaran from the sky. So Aldebaran is also invisible at this time. And it does occur to me that whatever dreams we harbor at this new moon, they may actually manifest for us at the heliacal rising of Aldebaran, when Aldebaran becomes visible. So there's many activation times when Mercury goes direct, when the moon becomes visible, and perhaps when Aldebaran has its heliacal rising as well. And this is going to be occurring at different times or days depending on where you are situated in the world, because it's all about when you can see Aldebaran. Firstly, in the early morning light, just before the sun rises. That's the heliacal rising. It is going to be approximately the 11th of June for those of us in Eastern Australia. Very faintly, just before dawn, you'll be able to see Aldebaran on that day, just before the sun comes up shining in the sky in the east. So it could be that something manifests for us at the heliacal rising of Aldebaran as well. I would suggest checking out the app Stellarium if you want to know when you might see Aldebaran becoming visible for you in your part of the world. we've gone through on our Patreon page how to use stellarium a number of times. Jupiter sextile to the new moon. Now, this will serve to beneficially expand the influence of the new moon. Because it is, as I said before, a sextile. It's not as strong as a trine, but it can still be felt. And we've got this great benefic Jupiter, and we've got Mars. And Mars and Jupiter are friends in traditional astrology. And so this sextile can positively influence the blessing that comes from this new moon. Thank you, Jupiter. But also positively energize the outcome of this new moon. Can give action to this new moon, can give momentum to this new moon, can give manifestation. When Jupiter and Mars come together, it's highly manifesting. It can really bring about tangible physical results, conjoining with the new moon. So the influence is very good from the conjunction of Jupiter and Mars. Jupiter sextile the sun brings optimism, good luck, and happiness in general. And so it's going to bring that sense with this new moon as well. Some people with planets around 9 degrees of Gemini or Sagittarius, opposite, because you will be trined by this conjunction. Or even Aries, because this area of Aries is being activated by the conjunction as well. You might get lucky. Now, this is a lucky combination. It can bring you some blessing. Positive thinking can attract good fortune too, especially as this new moon's occurring in the thinking sign of Gemini. Goals can be easier to achieve under this influence, under this new moon, because of this Jupiter-Mars aspect. And material and spiritual growth can also occur. Many opportunities are going to be fruiting now for a lot of people, particularly if you have planets or points around this area of the chart. So these two great friends, what does it mean to have Jupiter and Mars? They get along so well in traditional astrology. It's time for more confidence for us generally as a populace. We're super enthusiastic now. Our actions can be met with divine blessing and divine luck. We don't hesitate. We jump right in. Mars is like the atomic strategist in the sky, and Jupiter gives this buoyant energy of belief and faith and hope. And so together they allow us to make great plans for our future, filled with hopefulness and filled with achievable aspirations. So when they're conjunct, they're very powerful for manifesting business enterprises. So we're seeing this theme, aren't we? Gemini has to do with business. We talked before about Aldebaran affecting business in certain houses. And of course, Jupiter and Mars making this aspect can be very powerful for manifesting business enterprises. So if you are running your own business, if you have a Patreon platform or a Royal Stars Academy, astrology teaching school, or whatever it happens to be, then it could be that this is a very blessed time for your business to grow and expand and fruit. So believe in yourself now. Take action to make your dreams come true when the moon becomes visible, and this auspicious and empowering energy is right behind you. The universe absolutely has your back. So that's what we're seeing with regard to the things that are available in this chart for us to interpret that might be influencing us. So when we have moon and sun in a conjunction in Gemini, well, this means that the 12th house ruler and the 11th house ruler are joining together in the sign of Gemini. What do I mean by that? The moon rules the sign of Cancer. So it is located 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 houses from its rulership. The sun rules Leo. So it's located in this very important connection between the masculine and feminine, the luminaries. It's located 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 houses from its rulership. So this is a combination of 12th house energy and 11th house energy coming together for the new moon. What does this bring? It can bring, for some people, it will bring, especially again, if you've got trigger points at 9 degrees, all of these energies will be amplified and stronger for you. It can bring success in foreign countries. Maybe that's success in a relationship in a foreign country, or success in business in a foreign country. It could be success with an art deal in a foreign country. It could be success with a YouTube channel in a foreign country. It could be whatever. but success can come in a foreign country. The energies of the collective will be heightened. 11th house energy represents collective. And we will be sensitized, 12th house, to the general mood out there in society. I don't know if you've been feeling it, but my friends who are quite psychically inclined and I all have this, just the level of anxiety and tension is off the Richter scale. I hate to say it at the moment, but it's true. The general mood of things is so amplified and quite scary in some senses. So we're going to be highly sensitized to this general collective tension. So be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and be conscious at this time. So things will feel like they have actually got a life of their own now, like forces outside of our own human control are pulling the strings and we're just puppets, puppets in some big grand scheme. So that is strong when the 11th house Lord and the 10th house, and the 12th house Lord connect. Psychic abilities and experiences can also increase. So you might, I'm having way more dreams than I usually have. I haven't had dreams for years, it feels like, even though I'm Pisces, and now every night I'm dreaming something's trying to get through. So psychic abilities, they're all enhanced and increased under this energy. And sharing our secrets and worries is a healthy thing. I'm sharing with you my worries, my concerns here as I'm going through these themes. This is a healthy thing to do for us under this energy, and we might find ourselves doing it a lot more with the conjunction of the Sun and the Moon in Gemini. Sharing our secrets, sharing our worries. I'm doing it. 12th house is secrets. And 11th house is the masses. Hello, everybody out there in Patreon and YouTube lands. And Gemini is to talk, to share. So I'm sharing. There are some worries and some high level tension energy out there in the world. Sharing that with you, which is very much in alignment with the kinds of things we might find going on during this particular new moon. When we have a new moon in Gemini, it is always the start of a new cycle of communication in our lives. Maybe we're starting a new email correspondence or a new texting message friendship or something, we start a new cycle of communication, or we might be turning over a new leaf with communication. Maybe we've had to shut off communication with somebody in some way in our lives somehow. And this new moon brings us the chance to reignite or start, especially with the ruler being retrograde. We revisit some old communication and start a new initiation of connection. Who do you need to communicate with? When we go through the all signs breakdown, I'll highlight the different people groups represented by your sign, where this is and where this is occurring. But think about what needs to be said to the people groups that I point out. Think about what you're going to say, plan it out. And when the moon becomes visible on the 2nd of June, take action, send that email, make that call, pay them a visit, make that communication that needs to happen. Start that new cycle of communication that needs to occur. The other thing that we can take note of and use in our lives during not Mercury retrograde, we can, of course, but during the new moon in Gemini, is to practice meditation, to practice breath work in order to assist you if you're struggling under this moon. So, for those of us who need to ground ourselves, and maybe we do that through calming the mind in meditation or breath work. Personally, for me, I've got a lot of air in my chart, and I find reading helps me. We often, particularly books, say written by Eckhart Tolle or Thich Nhat Hanh or something like that, really calm my mind and ease my worries. So Deepak Chopra is also another one. Actually, if you want something simple and quick and easy to read that helps calm your mind under this erratic kind of Gemini energy, I can't recommend highly enough this book, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. This is the pocket version, and I just read a little snippet every day, and it gives me that Zen feeling, which I think we need given the heightened sensitivities of this particular energy in the chart. So now I want to enter into ceremony for new moon in Gemini. I do this every month. We have a little ritual together for each new moon and full moon. And the point of ceremony, I believe, is to create the right energy space for, in this case, new moon in Gemini energies and intentions to manifest in our life. So Gemini is an air sign, and using air in our ceremony is so important. You might like to use smoke from incense. You might like to surround yourself with some feathers that you've collected. You might like to spray some beautiful perfume in the air or light a scented candle. Anything that is smell related, anything that is wafting, smoky. And also doing breath work or meditating before you enter into this ceremony space can be a very good idea too, to get you into that right energy space, right vibration for new moon in Gemini energies. You might like to utilize this little section of our video. There's a timestamp for it at the time of the new moon to help you be in the zone, so to speak. So light your incense if that's what you have, or sit in a circle of feathers if you have gathered those for the occasion. Remember, air energy has to do with flight. This is why we're using birds in the background of this video. You might like to use some other kind of maybe sounds of gentle breezes or something light and airy in the background to help you feel into the lightness of Gemini energy. I'd encourage you to put a timer on for whatever length of time you feel that you can sit in energy space. Anything is fine, 5 minutes, an hour, whatever you want. So as you close your eyes, begin to breathe in and out, and focus on your breath. Repeat this as many times as you need to find a sense of stillness and peace and calm. Allow your thoughts to flow at this time. Don't avoid them, don't push them away. Simply observe your thoughts from outside. Notice the difference between observing your thoughts and aligning with your thoughts. Detach and see your thoughts for what they are, just thoughts, not necessarily reality. Take a moment to listen. Listen to your heart. Listen to spirit. Listen to what your thoughts are telling you. If you receive any intuitive insights now, write them down. Let the universe speak to you. This is a sign of communication, after all. Now, Gemini is a restless energy, so don't expect that your thoughts will stay focused for very long. You might even feel the need to move around, and that's quite okay. Do so. Stretch, shake. Allow what needs to come in to speak with you now, whether you get messages as you shake your body or sway. Let the messages, let the energy simply pass through you, and when it's ready, let it go. Breathe deeply and with gratitude. Notice your breath once again in and out. You might like to visualize the divine being that you connect to most. Maybe that's an angel, maybe it's God, Maybe it's the whole universe. Or maybe it's the energy of love. Visualize that source and give thanks for their positive influence in your life. Ask them if they have any messages, especially for you now. Ask if there is an area of your life where fresh starts need to be made. Whatever the message you are receiving, treasure it, or even write it down and hold it close for the month ahead. Keep it at the forefront of your mind. Give thanks for the communication that you have had with the divine in this time. Breathe deeply once again and let out a long exhale. And welcome back. I'll turn our little feathered friends down so they're not a distraction going forward. But I always feel so peaceful after I do the little ceremony, and it puts me in such a great headspace for doing the all signs breakdown. I often find when I do these new moon reports or the full moon reports that my intuition is more on point because I've done the little ceremony prior. So I hope that was a blessing to you. Let's jump into Gemini, the new moon, and we're going to start with the new moon in Gemini. I'm going to do Gemini first. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at new beginnings to do with the house Gemini is in. We might be looking at some business matters related to the house of Gemini, and we might be considering some important correspondence or communication that needs to happen after the 2nd or 3rd of June with people represented by whatever house Gemini falls in for you. So let's begin. First house, Gemini. Well, maybe you need to improve communication with yourself during this time. Maybe it's a time for maybe writing yourself a love letter or going for a walk in nature and just listening to your heart, listening to your thoughts like we just did with the ceremony that we conducted. So it's a time for reconnection with self, listening to self, honoring your heart, the needs of your heart. This is going to be a very personal new moon for you, Gemini people. So communication with self is important now. It's not so much, well, yes, it is business affairs, I should say. It's about being entrepreneurial when it's in the new moon is falling in the first house. It's about making a new start. Like you might get an entrepreneurial epiphany during the underworld experience of the new moon, the dark of the moon, and then once the moon becomes light on the 2nd of June, then you might be able to take action towards starting, a new project, a new business idea, maybe a new market opportunity, online business of some sort. Like there is just so much that could come forth. This is a house of new beginnings, new starts, the first house. It's the beginning of the horoscope. So it's a very empowered time to see things start afresh for you. There can be some physical effects. You might feel a little bit depleted because your emotional energy might be low in the first house with the new moon. But if that's how you feel, honor that need and use it to just go quiet, have some time to self and communicate and talk with self, like we said, through being restful and being mindful. Also, new moon energy here can really affect the first impressions that you give off to the world. So you might be giving a brand new impression, a brand new sort of auric influence, if you like, to those you encounter and those you meet, because this is new starts in the first house of you. So you could actually feel your energy shift completely, maybe a whole new attitude, a whole new state of mental well-being, or a whole new state of physical well-being could come your way as well. Okay, let's go to Cancer. Cancer rising, sun or moon people, you can look at all three signs. Well, this is falling, the new moon is falling for you in the 12th house. So this might be foreign business affairs that could really succeed for you. We did speak about this in the introduction. So we might be looking at success overseas, success on an international platform or in some international capacity that might occur for you with this new moon as well. You might also be, because this is about new communications or revisiting communication, you might be communicating with the dead, the deceased. Now, I'm not talking about grabbing out the Ouija board, but you might find that in your dreams, grandma comes to you, or some departed loved one speaks to you. You get a vision of them. You feel them close by you during the day, and you feel them pushing you in a certain direction in life, giving you ideas and thoughts to move here or do that and do this. This energy is communication with the divine. So don't ignore it. The new moon in your 12th house can bring about that sort of thing. If you're feeling prodded by the universe in a miraculous sort of way, trust that it is things from the other dimensions, angels, deceased loved ones, God, spirit guiding you, pushing you, directing you. They are giving you some positive, because remember, you've got a beautiful support from Jupiter and Mars, positive support, positive past life influences can also be coming through now. So there's communication happening there. Now, this is a moksha house, which is a liberation house, and that means that there can be some serious letting go occurring for some Cancer people, some serious releasing of old stuff that no longer serves you. Remember, we spoke in the beginning of the introduction about how the moon represents what we need to feel fulfilled. Here in the 12th house, it's about letting go, being liberated from what holds you back. This can include dissolving material things out of your life, maybe a person, maybe might be a job, might be a relationship, it might be dissolving a home. Now, these when we say losing something, we often think, oh, that's terrible. But what if you left a home in order to move into a better one? What if you left a business situation in order to move into a better one? There's a letting go, there's a liberation energy there. It's not loss and letting things go. I very rarely see it as bad. I see it as liberating all the time, actually. Maybe that's because I'm Pisces rising, but I find that letting go gives liberation. So big moksha, big liberation begins now with the new moon falling in your 12th house. Your dreams could be amplified under this energy. Pay attention to any psychic download, psychic intuition that occurs. Sort of daydreams are going to be very telling for you now, so don't ignore them. Pay attention to them. There might be some secrets also that come to light for you guys when the moon becomes visible around the 2nd of June. Leo, lovely Leo rising, sun or moon people. Wow, we've got the energy of the new moon falling in the 11th house. So this could mean business networks, connections, relationships of a wide, broad scale could be blessed under this new moon. You might make some new business associates, business connections, join some groups, join some clubs, join some, ideological movement or something that blesses you, Leo. It's a good time to do that, actually. New friendships can also form. You might just, develop a new solid friendship that might last you a long time with this new moon coming in. It's also possible that you might be communicating more with new friends that you've just made. I was a host at a retreat just gone, and the weekend just gone, which is why there wasn't a video last week, I might add. And at this retreat, made all sorts of wonderful new friends. Now, for me, I'm a Leo sun. I might very well be reaching out and reconnecting with these new friends and establishing new friendships at a deeper level. Not to mention that the 11th house has to do with communications with groups of people too. So I might be writing a letter to a group or an organization. I might be emailing a group of people or something like that. Or maybe I would be setting up a new communication schedule that will manifest 2 weeks after the new moon. Maybe I'm going to be speaking at a retreat, which I am, 2 weeks after the new moon. Again, setting intentions around group activities that will manifest 2 weeks later. And if you would like to attend the wellness retreat and you live near Torquay, then do let me know in the comments below, and I will make sure I PM you with the details for a retreat in Torquay that's coming up in Australia, where I'll be speaking. So new moon, groups, people, friendships, connections, very important. Stock market is also very important as well through the 11th house. So there might be, if you're, I'm not on the stock market, I don't understand that sort of thing, but if you are into that sort of thing, you might be making a new fresh start, a new beginning, buying some new stocks, getting involved in some sort of dreams and aspirations, and taking initiative and action towards making those dreams and aspirations happen. This is the 11th house where we receive rewards for what we contribute to the world. So there might be a brand new reward coming your way, Leo, brand new influx of blessing from what you're giving out to the world, what you're offering to the world, that might come your way, especially with older Baron being so heavily influential in this particular dynamic as well. So that's what we're seeing with the 11th house being activated for Leo. For Virgo rising sun or moon people, the new moon in Gemini is falling in the 10th house, and so it's with bosses and authority figures that we might be doing most of our communication, maybe having some new communication or revisiting some sort of communication with a boss, with an authority figure, with an employer, with a manager. Those sorts of people might be we're in discussions with in some way under this new moon. We could also have some, if we're working in a business capacity, and that's our 10th house career, that's what we're offering to the world. And for most Virgo people, they will be, because Gemini is small businesses in the 10th house of career, so, and purpose. So for a lot of Virgo people, they are very good at running small businesses. They're very into all the details, and they're efficient, and they can work well at running their own small businesses. You guys might have a new start with a small business, or be receiving some sort of new ideas, new vision, new instigations that you can implement in your own business affairs as part of your career. This is the point of highest inspiration, the 10th house. So this could bring you some sort of psychic downloads or visions or inspirations that come your way under this new moon. You might get a new opportunity for leadership yourself that manifests as a result. It would probably be leadership within a small group, but it would have a large impact that might rise up for you. There could also be a new opportunity for respect and success in the world, and an opportunity to create some sort of new legacy. And I'm using the positive interpretation of this energy because of the influence of the Jupiter-Mars sextile, which is amplifying and blessing the new moon energy here. So that's, generally speaking, where the influences are going to fall for our beautiful Virgo friends. For Libra rising sun or moon people, well, the most blessed house in the horoscope is receiving this new moon energy for you guys. And this is the 9th house. And where is our communication directed? At this time, where are we beginning some cycle of communication? With the gods. Communication with the gods is seen through the 9th house. So can I just say, Libran people, if there is something on your mind and on your heart and soul, pray. Pray, 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 pray. Maybe that's in the form of meditation for you. Maybe that's your prayer. Maybe walking in nature and just being attuned to your thoughts. Maybe that's your act of prayer. Whatever is prayer for you. 9th house, new moon, with all of these heavenly energies influencing, it is time to communicate with the gods. Your prayers can be answered. You can start a whole new cycle of blessing in your life, because the 9th house is a house of blessing through your communication with the divine. They might guide you, they might lead you, the divine might inspire you through this house. This is also the 9th house is a house of purpose and mission. It's what gives our life meaning. And so with the new moon here, it might be through some sort of connections, communications. Mercury is to talk, to share knowledge, to share wisdom in the 9th house. That might give your life more meaning. And you might start a whole new cycle of connection as well, that gives your life meaning. This is also the 5th house from the 5th Libra. 5th house is love. 9th house is perfected love. And so this is why we see the second life partner in Western astrology through the 9th house. There could be a new beginning for you, Libran people, with your second life partner. With, whether it's somebody that you have met and you know is going to be your second life partner, or whether it's somebody that you have yet to meet. This new moon could herald a brand new start in love and relationships for you with a second committed life partner potentially, especially if it's falling on your 9th house manifestation point. That could very well be the case. It's very amplified in that regard. So that's another thing that can happen. It's also a house of good karma. So feels good just to say this. Your good karma from past lifetimes, Libra, can be coming back to you now. You can be receiving the blessing, a brand new start in life that is a blessing from your good deeds in previous lifetimes or in this lifetime. So some eureka moments might come to you as well, some deep understandings, some brand new philosophies, brand new ideologies, brand new ethics or morals can also come up in your life. New belief systems will be manifesting now under this new moon influence in the 9th. And for some people, not everybody, but for some people it might instigate a new opportunity for travel or immersion in another culture at this time also. For Scorpio rising, sun or moon people, well, the energy of the new moon is falling for you in the 8th house. And so this means that you might be beginning a cycle of communication, potentially, well, worst case scenario, with some criminal organizations, or, maybe 8th house is a difficult house. You might be, maybe somebody has impersonated you on Instagram, and you need to contact Instagram if you can and try and sort out that person, report that person who is impersonating you, or has opened an account pretending to be you. There can be some communications regarding criminal activities or criminal behavior. Or if you're involved in mafia groups and what have you, then maybe you are doing more communication with other members of mafia groups or organized crime, which is seen from the 8th house. Now that sounds very sort of dark, but the 8th house has shadow and light, just like every other house and every other planet and every other sign. So there can be, with this energy, potentially new beginnings with regards to your experience of the chakras, because this is a house that rules our chakras and the openings and gateways in our life. So the access to the divine, the access to higher realms is seen through the 8th house, the doorways, the passageways to these areas. And so chakras are the gateways to our energy fields. So for some people, they might have a new opening of their chakra systems. Maybe a new experience of Kundalini energy rising can be experienced. So if you need to do certain practices that bring that about, why not? This is the house of doing those sorts of things. This is a new moon energy that can be very beneficial for that. For some people, it could see a new beginning after a divorce. This is a house connected with divorce, whereas the 6th house is a house of fights that lead to divorce. Divorce can sometimes be seen, or litigation, the litigation component of divorce can be seen through the 7th house. The results of divorce, particularly the material results of divorce, are seen through the 8th house. And if you're coming out of a divorce with a new moon here, you're making a new start after that material divvying up of stuff has happened, or that moving on. So it's a brand new fresh start, turning over a new leaf for some people after a separation or a divorce has occurred. This is a house of catastrophes, tragedies, accidents, and things like that. And so what the new moon here indicates is not that you will experience those things, but it means a brand new start after you've experienced those things. So, maybe you've been, lost your job or something like that, and here comes a new moon in the 8th house, perhaps giving you an opportunity for a brand new start, out the other side of catastrophe, because this is a new moon of new beginnings, new starts. So let's say, during the new moon, during the underworld phase, you lose your job as a barista or whatever. And then by the time the moon becomes visible on the 2nd of June, you're reborn and you've got a better paying job, a higher paying job, and something that is going to be a bit more secure for you, perhaps. And so you are reborn. 8th house is about big turns around, rebirthing, the phoenix rising from the ashes. So even though it's about those difficult things, I just want you to all be aware that rebirthing can come with this new moon. Remember, it's quite a good new moon, and you're likely to notice the blessings flooding in around the 2nd or 3rd of June, maybe even, as I spoke of in the introduction, the 11th of June or thereabouts as well. This is a house of what we receive from others also. So there might be some sort of receiving of some moral support, financial support, material goods, inheritances, wills, payouts that come your way. And what a blessing that could be. This is a monetary house. People, it depends on what circles you study in, but people will often refer to this as a bad house. But it's a money house. It's the house of other people's money in our lives, but other people can sometimes bless us. And this new moon is a blessed moon because it's conjunct Aldebaran, and it is making a sextile to Mars and manifesting Jupiter. So in that sense, new beginnings with moral support, financial support, material goods from other people, inheritances, wills and payouts. Sagittarius, rising sun or moon people. Well, the energy of this new moon is falling in your 7th house. And for you guys, what this might mean is a brand new beginning of communication with a partner, with a business partner, with a marriage partner, with your audience, with your clients. So maybe things have been a certain way for a certain period of time, particularly since the eclipses that occurred back in December, November, December 2021. This is a position here where anything that was sort of instigated at that time that might have led to a certain conversation dynamic or communication dynamic with these 7th house people can actually have a brand new start. Can actually, like I spoke of in the introduction about letting go of certain things that no longer serve us. That can happen. Maybe a business partnership has to end. Maybe a relationship with a client has to end. And new beginnings can start with those sorts of people. So, one client ends. Thank you very much. Thanks, but no thanks. And you begin a new relationship with a new client instead. So this is what we can see. The ending and letting go of certain relationships in our life and beginning a whole new communication cycle, even a whole new relationship cycle under this new moon with new partners, new connections, new collaborators. This is also a house of agreements, contracts, alliances, promises, vows, commitments. So anything like that, you can have a brand new start with. I'm very reluctant to make any vows and commitments in this lifetime because I believe they hang around with us over many incarnations, and I don't want that karma. Thank you very much. But if you are somebody who likes the idea of making vows or promises or commitments, or if you have to sign business agreements or contractual agreements and that sort of thing, this new moon is particularly once the moon becomes visible on the 2nd of June, can be very beneficial for signing those contracts. That said, Mercury is retrograde. Make sure that when you sign your contracts, Mercury has turned direct, which is happening on the 2nd of June where I live. Do double check where it's what day that is occurring for you. It could be on the 1st. If it's the 2nd here in Australia, it's likely to be the 1st on the west coast of the US. And everyone else will fall somewhere in between that. So do double check that if you're going to sign any agreements. If you sign after Mercury turns direct, it could be very beneficial, very prosperous, especially as this is also a business house. It's the 10th house from the 10th, career 10th house. So double emphasis on career success here. Business success in Gemini. So I would suggest that after Mercury goes direct and the moon becomes visible, sign those business contracts, those business deals, and you will likely see beautiful manifestation come of that because of Aldebaran's influence. And we spoke about this in the introduction, exactly why that was going to be a blessing. So contracts can be blessed, new beginnings with relationships, new beginnings with partnerships and business deals can all be very fruitful for you once the moon becomes visible and Mercury goes direct. Capricorn rising, sun or moon people is seeing the energy of the new moon fall in the 6th house. This is where you might be having to make some fresh starts with communication with employees, with people who are in your life who are sort of at a lower socioeconomic rung or more disadvantaged than you. Maybe that it could be people less educated than you. So people who haven't received as much opportunity as you. You might be communicating extensively with those kinds of people under this new moon energy. It's also, if you're involved in any kind of businesses that have to do with health or service, then this is a very blessed energy too. You'll notice that after the moon becomes visible on the 2nd, that your businesses, particularly small business, because Mercury rules small business, can be very much amplified or blessed or prosperous if you're involved in any service industries or health-based industries or the military even, any litigation where you're trying to help people sort out problems, any medical fields as well can also fall under the 6th house. So anywhere where you're fixing a problem basically as your career, as your work, can really be blessed. If you've got a business in those realms, you can really be blessed. There is a karmic responsibility with the 6th house to serve. It represents the karma we need to burn. And so we might have a responsibility with the new moon in Gemini to speak, to write, to communicate about imbalance and injustice, and you might get some inspiration under this new moon for how you can do that, how you can write, speak, communicate, and raise awareness of the imbalances and the injustices in the world. And if you do that, believe me, that will be significantly burning any karma that you may have. For Capricorn people, to write, to speak, to communicate as a method of burning karma and freeing your soul from karmic bonds, it cannot be understated how powerful that is because of Gemini being in the 6th house. The 6th house is such an important house for the journey of our soul. There could also be, because at new moon we can detox, I would highly recommend Capricorn people get in on that because this is a house where there's toxicity associated with the 6th house. And so purging, cleansing is a very important thing to do, very powerful thing to do now. And I would encourage you to do that as a form of healing practice for yourself, Capricorn, during this time. You might also have to communicate in order to resolve some conflicts. So that could be writing an email or sending a text or verbally trying to resolve a conflict. And I would suggest that the conflict probably won't be concluded until the moon becomes visible or Mercury goes direct or Aldebaran rises. And we talked about those dates when that's occurring in the beginning of this video. Aquarius rising sun or moon people. The energy of the new moon for you is falling in the 5th house. Guys, this is good karma from past lifetimes. New moon here. Awesome as. So this is going to give you opportunities for luck, especially when the moon becomes visible. More joy, more exhilaration, more excitement, more happiness can come your way. It's like the fire of God is activated with this new moon. So you might be getting some ego validation. Somebody might be really upholding your creative work. Somebody might be really appreciating what you do under this. You might be communicating more with people who are 5th house. That could be celebrities or politicians, or it could be your own children that you're communicating with or having conversations with or sending emails to or something like that. Also, any businesses that are associated with the 5th house, anything in entertainment fields, in politics, anything to do with children, Not so much caring and nurturing children, but more entertaining children, teaching children. If you're involved in any of these kinds of fields, then you can receive a blessing in your business because of the new moon. It's a very business-oriented type of new moon, as we discussed in the beginning. And so blessings can come if you're involved in any of those sorts of things. There is an energy of, with this one, games, playing, having fun, having a good time. That's what the fifth house is all about, and Gemini loves that sort of thing. So Aquarius, you might be getting an opportunity to connect, to socialize, to have fun. I encourage you to take it and make the most of it and throw yourself into it, because that's the energy of the fifth house that could really be quite a blessing for you in some way. Pisces rising, sun or moon people. The energy of the new moon is falling in your fourth house. This means that you, on the new moon, you might be communicating with family more. We've got ironically, a big family event occurring on this day where, we're all getting together with my extended family. So there's definitely going to be more communication with my heritage, my roots, my lineage, my genetic family that is happening under this new moon. So that's one thing that can be occurring. Also, if your businesses are related to real estate, homes, farming, hospitality, Airbnb-ing, renting properties, if you have a big property portfolio or something, Pisces, then this can mean a new beginning with those things, a business associated with sort of property and real estate and so forth. You might get an opportunity to start a portfolio, to start some kind of new business that is involved with fourth house things, farming, gardening, care, nurturance, all that kind of stuff. So really, really exciting. And of course, falling with Aldebaran could really bless that happening in an angular house, which is very amplifying. This is the house of our life foundation, our emotional core strength. It's also the house of our happiness in Vedic astrology. So for Pisces people, there could be a brand new start in terms of happiness. You might have been really struggling in recent times. There might have been some issues that have been bringing you down. Well, you could really turn a corner under this new moon. It could bring some buoyancy. Thank you, Jupiter. Back into your life and uplift you and give you a sense of hope and joy once more. This is also the house of security and safety in the world, and our home and domestic environment. We like our home to be secure and safe, and a safe space for us. So the new moon here could see you getting a new opportunity to create safety in your domestic environment, security in your domestic environment, a home life that feels upheld in some way by the divine. So lots of new beginnings, potentially for some. Pisces people might even represent a brand new house that comes your way in some manner. So very exciting times for Pisces people. Aries rising, sun or moon people. The energy of the new moon is falling for you guys in the third house. The third house is a very restless house. It's all about movement and short localized trips. So you might be, starting out on a, short little localized sojourn. You might be going for a trip to the seaside, and it might be 2 hours away or something like that. It's sort of fairly localized afternoon drive. And, you might be taking some journeys and making some, going somewhere new in terms of a short trip. The new moon falling in your third house, and it's a business house in a business sign, and it's a heavily business-oriented new moon, might see you actually getting some new ideas for a business. I mean, you're very entrepreneurial already with Aries as your rising sign. So you might get some new aha moment, epiphany, like, oh, I could do this. Oh, I might try that. Or somebody might give you an opportunity to start a new side hustle or a side business. Third house can give you new opportunities that way. You might also be communicating more with third house people, neighbors, friends, brothers, sisters, relatives of some description, like extended family. So you might be needing to contact them, communicate them, send them an email. You might be doing more communications for your business purposes with this particular configuration as well. There could be, for some of you, depending on your age and whether you're studying and so forth, but there could be some tests or exams that that crop up now that you might have to undergo. How would you go with that? Well, it really would depend on your own personal chart, but this is a positive new moon, so you might feel really good about these exams. Might feel quite confident going into these exams, and you could actually see some positive results. This is a house of games, like playing games and being busy. So it's definitely an energy for being busy over the next week or so, maybe 2 weeks after this new moon. You might be flat out and busy, but it's going to feel like fun. It's going to feel like joy to you. It's going to be playful and good. It's not going to be busy stress. It's going to generally be busy in the positive, thanks to the sextile that's coming there from Jupiter. So thank you, Aries. That's where the focus is going for this new moon. And for Taurus, thank you for waiting till last, Taurus people. But the energy of the new moon for you is falling in the second house. So this is where you might be doing a lot of communications, your focus for communications, or making a new start with communications, to bankers, to people who are taking care of your money. Maybe you've bought a ton of gold recently and you need to communicate with the people who are keeping it in sort of safekeeping or storage or whatever. Anybody who's keeping something for us, saving something for us, storing something for us, we might be communicating or beginning a new cycle of communication with. This is also perhaps a new beginning with what we deem to be valuable, what we deem to see as important in our lives, not only our personal self-worth, but what we think is valuable out there. New moons see us making new starts. You might have always put a great deal of emphasis on having a Gucci handbag or something, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I don't think I need that in order to live. I think my value system has changed around Gucci handbags, and so maybe you have a new beginning and a new start with what you value, what you see as valuable. You might also begin, maybe it's not so much a house of diet, but you might develop a new interest in food. This is a house of food, so maybe you've always eaten, I don't know, Indian curries, and then suddenly you try some sort of a South American dish, and you're like, whoa, that's my thing, that's my jam. New interest, new curiosity, Gemini, in some kind of food, or maybe some other cultural experience, maybe some sort of new music, new clothing style, new fashion. New interest begins, new curiosity around tangible things like food and clothing and housing styles and art and that sort of anything cultural. So it could be quite fun, quite interesting, quite exciting for Taurus people with the new moon in their second house. Also, I just need to conclude with this. It is a house of money and savings and our attitude towards money. So you might be getting a brand new perspective on money. You might even get some brand new opportunities thanks to Aldebaran to bring more money in to your life, maybe through some sort of business endeavor, and to save more, to accumulate more in terms of money. So thank you one and all for going through the new moon in Gemini, which I'm very excited about. It's going to be a really wonderful new moon. I hope you're all blessed by it, and I look forward to sharing with you what's going down in the astral skies next week. I'll catch you then.